Essentially like trying to measure the beta carotene levels in a hippo versus a bucket of tar. I have no idea. Sorry about that. What's up, everybody? I am coming with a different sort of video today. And this is going to be real rough, real raw, and we're just going to see where life takes us. How do you rate games? How do I rate games? How does the general world rate games? Because it's very interesting. Rating is so, there's the top 10 lists and things like that. But then there's also like, oh, what's your rating of this game? Oh, you gave that a 10? Oh, you gave that a 7? You only gave that a 4? Blah, blah. It's all over the board. So this is a conversation, maybe just to like talk it out of how I rate games. Because honestly, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I don't even know. I don't even know how I rate games. So I got a couple of my 10s here, a few of my 10s. I got some 10s scattered around here too. But the crew. It's 10. I love it. I think it's awesome. Raj the Ganges. Maybe my favorite worker placement game. It's 10. I love it. It's flipping awesome. Gloomhaven. This is Jaws of the Lion, but the original one as well. Fantastic. Spectacular. Here's the one that's random and out of the blue. Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Now, I'm going to go into some stuff here. First of all, Harry Potter. This is probably the one on my list that I would say not as controversial, because whatever, who cares? I don't care how who rates games what. It doesn't matter to me. But this is the one that even I would say, like, mechanically it's got some issues. But for me, it's a 10. Like, I've played this game so many times. I've played through it with multiple groups, multiple different ways. I mean, I have well over 50 plays of that game in, and I freaking love it. Now, I also love Harry Potter. I had a Harry Potter wedding, so that'll give you a little bit of clue, like, as to how things go down. So that's definitely a factor. Theme is definitely a factor. Because there's a Toy Story version, apparently, that is like a real implementation that fixes some of the things, but I wouldn't like it as much. Just straight up being honest, I wouldn't like it as much just because theming. So, that being said, like, fun versus mechanics versus theme versus what? How do you tend to rate games? Because me, I got a feeling, and I feel could be wrong, that this is the same for most people. Tens, not instantly, but tens are pretty much, like, when you play a 10, you're like, the game just jives with you. It's just fun. It's just awesome. Now, there's games mechanically that I think are awesome, that are great, but they don't grip me in the overall gameplay. Like, oh yeah, like Ark Nova is solid as all get out. It's not a 10 for me though, because now, to be fair, I haven't played it a lot. I've played it a decent amount solo, but I haven't played it a lot at multiplayer. And my plays multiplayer, it seems like the game is long. And that's one thing that will, for me, knock a game down, is if it feels long. Even if it isn't long, it feels long. Now, I think Ark Nova feels long and is long, but I'm also not the most efficient Ark Nova player, so I'm guessing people who are good at it can probably play it in a reasonable amount of time. So, 10s for me, I think, are the easiest. Also, like, just trash games are the easiest. It's those middle numbers that are just, I don't want to say subjective, because everything is subjective, but are just hard for me to be like, oh, what is the rating of this game? So going forward, I'm going to be trying to do more reviews on games and feel like, games I like, Cult of the Fun, Cult of the Good, things like that. And I know it's coming like, well, what do you give the game? What's the rating on the game? Because that's, like, it's always, always, always what people are looking for when reviews come out. How do you rate it? What do you think? And so maybe I'm going to have to get it sorted out in my brain. Maybe not. Maybe it is what it is. But I think some of those ratings, the sevens, eights, nines, even, or sixes, sevens, eights, nines, I'm guessing probably day to day it can go either way. Now, another thing, how many plays do you have to have before you rate a game? I have games, Massive Darkness, for example, that I have double-digit plays of that I still haven't rated, because Massive Darkness is a particularly interesting one for me. I love Massive Darkness. I think it's extremely fun. But there's buts. And when there's buts, is it like, okay, I don't think I can give Massive Darkness a 10. Now, at the same time, Cthulhu Death May Die, also double-digit plays, I love, and in my brain, I feel like I should give it a 10. I feel like it should be a 10 in my brain, but I have it rated as a 9. And that kind of goes back to that thing that I said about your 10s just feel like 10s. So if I'm hedging on Massive Darkness being a 10, it's probably not a 10. For me, things that I play, and the first time I play it, I'm like, ooh, that's it. That's my jam. And the second time you play it, it's equally as good. And then you just know. Massive Darkness, Cthulhu Death May Die. I played them and I loved them. Well, to be fair, Massive Darkness, like the tutorial, you can't really gauge it off that. You gotta wait. But I'm just kind of looking around the room again. Free form. This is what we're going with here. So, where was I? Massive Darkness, or Death May Die. For some reason in my brain, I feel like that game should be a 10 for me. I have so much fun playing it. Every time it comes to the table, I love it. I've painted the big baddies, the big gods. I haven't painted the whole game yet. But again, like that, not the painting is like, oh, if a game is painted, it's better. I mean, it is, but that won't affect my rating of a 10 or not. So it's just good. I just love it every time I play it. So why isn't it a 10? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions for me is a 10, and it's been a 10 pretty much forever. And so the fact that there's games that I think are awesome, but they're just not 10s in my brain for some reason, means something. I don't know what it means, but for me it means something. I'm not sure if other people are like that also. Do they see a 10 and do they know 10s instantly, or does it take a while to build up to a 10? I'm trying to think if there's any 10 games I have that had a slow build up. I guess technically Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I haven't played 2 or 0 yet. I want to. There was plans to, group things, blah, blah. You know how it goes. But Pandemic Legacy Season 1, it was a slow build. So there's that. But again, it's meant to be that way. That's another thing. I have 2 games on my list that are 10s that I don't own anymore. Pandemic Legacy Season 1, obvious reasons. Although some people do keep it and play the... In retrospect, I kind of wish I would have. I'm not sure I would have ever played the game again, but it would have been cool to have. I think we took a picture of it. It's somewhere. But anyway. And then Sleeping Gods. Sleeping Gods is another 10 of mine that just... I mean, that game, man, I threw on, like, pirate. I soloed it. I threw on pirate music and it just lived in that world for hours, and it was so good. So good. I had so much fun with that game. That game was incredible. Why did I get rid of it is the question. Well, I played through it. I played it a lot, and I felt I'm probably not going to play this again. just in my brain, like I have a lot of campaign games. You can see I got Madara up there. I have Townsfolk Tussle, kind of campaigny, but and I have a boatload coming. I still haven't played through Seventh Continent fully. Gloomhaven, I'm like, I don't know, third of the way through, maybe. So I knew I had a whole bunch more of campaign-ish games, and I'm like, was likely not going to get to Sleeping Gods, so I knew I was going to get a decent price for it because it was going for a decent price, and so I just had the retail version. And so I pulled the trigger on selling it. That's another thing that I try to do is keep a board game budget. I've been doing that the last couple of years where I give myself a number at the beginning of the year and I try and stick to it. And that usually means during the process, I'm going to be selling off games to get new stuff that I want. Sleeping Gods came at a time where I was like, I could probably get $100 for this game, which in turn I can turn that into another decent campaign Kickstarter for down the road or a couple other games and go from there. Well, turns out it probably turned into the new Sleeping Gods back, but that's good because I will play the bejesus out of that one once that comes as well. So yeah, so that's some of my 10s. Now, when things start getting a little bit sketchy is your 6 through 9s, and I mean I think below 6 is kind of it's kind of irrelevant at that point. Yeah, great, you gave that one a 1, you gave that one a 4, and they're down there. But that being said, piggybacking off of that, there are games that people are 10 like 10 like Twilight Imperium are people's 10s, like not even close. Their number one game of all time, not even close. And for me, like that's a sub 5 game. Because again, this is a big thing with me, length of time. Holy moly, I've played that game twice and I never say never playing again, but I will never play that game again. Like it's just too like I would rather play 7 to 10 other games all the time. I would rather play 7 to 10 solo games than sit. I'll sit at a table next to you guys playing, like my friends playing it while they're playing it, and have fun playing solo games while they are doing that because I just can't do it. It's too long and not enough interest for me. Now, interestingly enough, Cosmic Encounter, I know they're very different. I get it. But it gives me what I want out of Twilight Imperium, the like interaction and the different like, you know, the different abilities that the different races have. It gives me that in a small, compact, shorter, extremely shorter quarter of the time with interaction and just shenanigans and fun. Oh, I hadn't played Cosmic Encounter until recently. You can watch my other video if you want about that, but holy moly, that game surprised me a lot. I had zero expectations going in, and I'm not gonna say 10 out of 10 because I haven't played it enough for it to be a 10 out of 10. I've only played it once, but whew, I loved it. But yeah, it gives me what I want out of that type of game and not all the garbage that goes along with it. Now, I know some of the garbage that goes along with it is like tech trees and things like that. The tech tree is something that is interesting to me, but I've also heard you can just get Beyond the Sun, which is Tech Tree the board game, and I don't think it's 8 hours long, and I can get the tech tree aspect of that game that I like, and then I can play Cosmic Encounter, and then I can play a solo game of Arc Nova, and then I can play Rajas of the Ganges, and then I can play 15 games of the crew while you're still playing Twilight Imperium, and I get all of those things, and I get it. People are like, yeah, but you remember that Twilight. Oh my god, I don't want to remember that game of Twilight Imperium. It haunts me to this day. Well, 2 games. The first game haunts me more than the second. Second one, I don't honestly even remember because I think I just tuned out after about 45 minutes, and then I just went through the motions and was thinking about like pizza or something. I don't know, maybe pie, maybe pizza pie, deep dish stuffed pizza. But anyway, so yeah, we're getting off topic here a little bit, not really ratings, but yeah, so like my rating for Twilight Imperium is like, I don't know, a 4. When you get that low, does it really matter? Like, I don't ever want to play the game again. I don't ever want to play the game again. I'm good. I've played it. I don't ever want to play it again. And to me, if that's the situation, like, then it's a sub 5 game. If I never want to play the game again, it's a sub 5 game. So let's get into a little bit of like the 7 through 9 or 6 through 9, whatever. A 6 versus 7. What is 6 versus 7? What is an 8 versus a 9? And again, I think it's just subjective, and I don't know how other people do it, but I think for me, it's kind of like I said, tens, or I know tens. I know my tens. And so when something like a Cthulhu Death May Die, a Massive Darkness come along, and I really, really like those games, but I just can't, it's just not a 10 in my brain. I think those are the kind that have to be 9s for me. And then 8s are games that I really enjoy, but I just really like them. I think they're very good, and I really like them. And then 7s are like, yeah, good games, and then 6s are like, yeah, pretty good, and then 5s are whatever, 5 and below or whatever. But then there comes the interesting situation where it comes to something like Marvel Legendary. I had Marvel Legendary rated a 7. I was like, at the base game. I played it. It was fine. It was fine. Like, okay, I played it, and then I was like, okay, I'm good. And I was pretty ready to get rid of it. And then everyone's like, the big thing was the Dark City. You gotta get the Dark City expansion. It's the best expansion, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was out of print. But then they came back and they reprinted it. I don't know how many years ago this was. 3 years ago, maybe? 4 years ago? 2? I don't know. Whatever. Time is irrelevant at this point. And so I'm like, okay, I'll get the Dark City expansion. People were right. Like, they just were. When Dark City expansion, the schemes were better. They were more interesting. They did more interesting things. The villains were better. They did more interesting things. They were cooler. And it turned the game into something. So my wife loves Legendary. And again, I was very meh on it, but I know she liked it. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll try the Dark City expansion and see if maybe that'll help. And let me tell you, it helped. Now, when she wants to play Legendary, I'm like, heck yeah, let's play Legendary because I enjoy the game now, because I can do things. I also picked up 2 other expansions. I think I picked up the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then I don't remember, Revelations or something. I don't know, another random one that I don't remember. But regardless, what do you do with a game like that? Because I feel like, okay, I can rate Legendary and go rate Legendary a 7, but then I have to go and rate the Dark City expansion a 10, a 9. Like what? Like what do we like? What do you, I don't know. I think it's hard. But then I prior to this video, I was looking like, okay, what are my 10s? And I look and I was like, oh, the Thunderstone Quest Barricades expansion, I rated a 10. I'm gonna have to change that. But that being said, I do love the Barricades mode of Thunderstone Quest. I think it's phenomenal, and it probably is a 10. I have insane amounts of fun playing that game. But it's like, okay, Thunderstone Quest, honestly, I haven't played it other than co-op solo, like with the expansion. So I don't know what I would give Thunderstone Quest base competitive game. I honestly don't know because I've never played it. So how do you do that? I've only played one of them. Red Rising. I played the solo version of it. I friggin' love it. I think it's amazing and fantastic. But then the only reason I picked it up is because of how amazing I heard the solo game was, and it is. And because prior to that, all I'd heard was that the base game is it's okay. Like, it's not bad. It's just okay. but the solo version is great. So what do I rate Red Rising? Do I rate it on like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna rate it on the solo version because that's all I've played it. But then I give it a 9. So I go, okay, the Red Rising is 9. Then people are like, oh, you love Red Rising, but they don't realize, oh, he loves the solo mode of it. So it's that kind of thing. I mean, again, like people are like, when I say people, it's like the one person who's gonna watch this video, maybe, and then unless you're a big channel, then people might go to your BGG and look up your ratings and what you have games rated, and then, but then again, like, who cares? Also, who cares? Like, if somebody rates a game and you don't like it, like, who cares? I get that. I Don't get me wrong, that's the internet. That's the point of the internet. Like, that's how the internet exists, is for people to have their opinions and tell other people that their opinions are wrong. But like, it's so subjective, in board games especially are so subjective, even in my own brain, and even in probably most people's brains. Like, the games that they rate could change from day to day, week to week, who knows. And so clearly this type of thing is gonna be subjective in what it is, and that is what it is. But yeah, so ratings of games, I think it's extremely interesting. We've had a 21-minute conversation on it, and I still have no idea what I'm talking about and no idea what I'm doing when it comes to rating games. So that's that. Kids games, that's another thing. Like, kids games are rated extremely low on Board Game Geek, and I don't want to say rightfully so, but do you rate a kids game based on, like, do you rate it based on itself, the game itself, or do you rate it based on other kids games? And so you have that whole aspect of things. Like, oh, I mean, something like Hammer Time. I'm just looking over at my kids shelf over here. Hammer Time, it's fun. It's a fun game, but like, if I was putting it up next to like Rajas of the Ganges or Gloomhaven, I'd be like, okay, that's a 3. But like, as far as kids games go, like, that's very fun. My kids enjoy it. I love playing it with my kids. So where do I put that? Where do I rate that? I don't know. And does it matter? No, not really, because nobody's gonna look at my ratings anyway. So, but yeah, but in my brain, like, how do things get rated? And I don't know, I just think it's a fun conversation to have, and exciting conversation to have. Yeah, so let me think of other 10 games that I have. I was kind of scanning through my list. Mechs versus Minions. Again, there might be a little bias because I am a League of Legends player and I have been for 10 plus years, so the theming of that one. But at the same time, that game is fantastic. So that might be a 10 if it was. I mean, it also has like production quality up the wazoo and blah 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 blah. But I think it's a fantastic game. It's very fun. It's got the programming, but it's got leveling up of your programs, and it's just a really good game. I have it. My sister has it right now, but I want to get it back because I want to play it again. I don't know if I'll play through the full gambit of it, but I'd like to sit down and play a game or two of it again. Let me think. Other 10s that I have. Nothing I can think of. I think Wingspan I have rated a 10. And Wingspan being a 10 is, you can call it, bandwagon, call it whatever you want. It's just a great game. And that's another one that I played Wingspan pretty close to when it came out. My friend had it and brought it over, and I was like, okay, that's okay. I've played it. I don't know that I need to play it again. Well, then I got it, and I played it. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And I played it again. I was like, that's good. And I played it again. I'm like, this game is good. This game is really good. This game is really good. This game is just really, really good. And so that's another one where the more I played it, the better it became. And I think a lot of games are like that. But then again, like I said, I've played games double-digit times, and I haven't gotten to that point where it's like, yeah, man, this game is just so good. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I guess the long and the short answer is I don't know. But it is fun to think about. I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts and feelings if you have strong views about how you rate games. Some people might have like a checklist. Does it do this? Does it do this? Does it do this? How do I feel about this? I've also found having fun in gaming is starting to I think it's starting to take priority for me. Like I just want to have fun. And there's some games that for whatever reason just trip my fun trigger. And something like Valeria Card Kingdoms. Again, with the Darksworn expansion, which turns it into cooperative, it makes it fun. I've never even played the base game, but that is fun. So, co-op games, I think I'm leaning towards co-op games as like being co-op gamer cuz I just think they're more fun. But then again, you have things like Rajas, which is an easy 10 for me. It's phenomenal. It's not a co-op game. I have plenty of games that I love that are not co-op games. And so I guess long story short is I have no idea. But I do love board games and rating them is fun and not stressful, really. If you ever had stress when you're reading a board game, what do I rate this? Can I break it a 10? I can't make that game a 10. But then you hear some people's ratings of things and you're like, that is very interesting. Because there's certain games I can see. I can see why Twilight Imperium is some people's 10 games. I can see it. But there's sometimes people rate games 10s and I cannot see it. I cannot see it at all. The one that comes to my mind, and I own the game, is Shadowrun Crossfire. Now Rado never rates a game a 10, but that's like his second highest rated game of all time. I think it's good. Yep. And I've played it a pretty decent. I'm not going to say a lot because a lot is a trigger phrase, but I've played it a pretty good number of times, and I think it's good. Bordering on okay, but I think it's insanely hard. I think that's one of the reasons he likes it. But then with that game, he talks about like how the developers say they have an 80% win rate. I would love to see that. I'm not sure I buy it, but you know what? That's the one that like pops out in my brain as like being an insanely high rated game that it's hard for me to see how someone can like rate it that high. But anyway, I've gotten pretty rambly at this point. But I feel free to comment down below or don't, because most people are not watching at this point, And but as always, I love y'all. I hope everything is wonderful and keep on keeping on out there. Things will and are good.